Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! ISB!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! And Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. Of course, another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Tuesday. It is June 13th. Looking forward to it. Thanks a lot for joining us as always. Of course, the Golf Club at Eagle Point mobile unit. We're coming to you from today, the Logos and Promotions mobile studio. Want to give a big shout out to Charlie McClure and Janice Littleby, soon to be Mrs. McClure back in Bloomington. Anyone that needs merchandising, they do the shirts for Big Woods, those 6-foot blonde. I tap that shirts and all that stuff, all the merchandising. Give them a call or look it up, logosandpromotions.com. You see the banner back there. Lots to get to today on the program. Miami Heat mascot goes to the ER after a bit with Conor McGregor, but that's not as bad as what the Denver Nuggets did to Miami as they wrapped up the NBA Finals last night to give former Hoosier Thomas Bryant his first ring, and a big-time ring. Boogie Fland, a 5-star point guard, begins his visit to Indiana tonight. We'll talk about that. The foul course at Indiana University, ranked tied for number 2 in the state with the Donald Ross course at French Lick. We'll talk about that. Alabama baseball hires away Maryland's coach. And if you recall, Maryland had just a tremendous season this year. Well, Jeff Mercer didn't have to worry about him anymore, as he is heading to Alabama, Tuscaloosa, after that gambling probe cost Alabama's coach his job. Those are some of the things we'll get to, of course, on the program today. Our good friend Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News and Big Ten Network, along with Chronic Hoosier. And, of course, all of you guys. Jaden Mustab just finished up a visit at Indiana. So Mike Whitson getting plenty of action, staying busy with all the things that are going on. And while I'm thinking about it, don't forget, Never Lose Hoop. That comes up on July 20th of the golf outing at the Golf Club at Eagle Point. Oh, man. Looking for the Heat just they couldn't take the heat. Miami couldn't take the heat. And Denver took over last night. But that was not to be that was to be expected, actually. They've already been predicted to go back-to-back and win another championship. See, Tanis asking about, what did you miss about Bob Kravitz being among 20 people let go by the Athletic yesterday? I would hate to talk about this, but it was out there. Yeah, that sucks. That's not just for Bob, but that sucks for Indiana sports fans. And then by Indiana, I mean within the borders of the state. I don't care who you are. Bob is such a great writer. Hopefully that's a temporary thing for us, more so than even him. Well, Bob is obviously on our program each week, so he's taking a vacation this week, and rightly so. But yeah, it stinks. I subscribed to the Athletic for that very reason. So I have no reasons to keep my subscription to the Athletic, and so that's that. But I mean, I can't comment on another business other than it stinks when we see that stuff happen. Yeah, that's the best part. You got that right. Bob's too cool for the Athletic. Bob should start his own. Just be Bob. How's everybody doing today? Appreciate you guys joining us, being along. Money. Look, this is probably something I'll talk to Mike a little bit about, but that the PGA LIV merger is under a Senate investigation now. A little surprising. Things usually go, or a lot of times things are investigated by different people, but not a Senate investigation. This is it's going to be interesting to see how that fares out. Kind of different for that to, and that's something I need to pull up to look at actually. I wonder how many sports have ever gone through a Senate investigation. I don't recall any. This, I'm not saying that it hasn't been so before, but the United States Senate opens an investigation into this. This is from Golf Week. The PGA Tour, the Saudi Arabian-owned public investment fund, they call it, whatever. We'll see how that turns out. I don't know that there's much they can do about it, but we'll see. It'll be interesting. Just not accustomed to seeing that happen. But as I mentioned, Boogie Flan begins a visit with Indiana. They just had Jaden Mustaf in. Thomas Bryant, I mentioned that, winning his first championship. USA Basketball announced 18 finalists for the 2023 USA Men's U19 team on Monday. The finalists were selected from a group of 30 players who earned invites to the camp. Indiana basketball recruiting targets Dylan Harper and Asa Newell were both selected as finalists. Asa Newell, of course, down at Montverde. Other players making the cut included Mark Armstrong, Toby Awaka, Omaha Billu, Killian Boswell, Kanan Catchings, Miles Colvin, a lot of names that are familiar to you, Jeremy Fears. Just look and see some other names that may, and that's about it. Led by Colorado head coach Tad Boyle, the team is competing for the 2023 FIBA U19 Men's World Cup in Hungary. That team starts competition in Madagascar. It's not a movie. It's not a Pixar movie either. Just kidding. And Slovenia on June 24th and 25th. On June 27th, they play Lebanon to conclude pool play. So there are some Indiana recruiting targets playing in some big-time international events. Former Indiana soccer star Aiden Morris was named to Team USA's 2023 CONCACAF Gold Cup roster on Monday, where the United States is in Group A with Jamaica, Nicaragua, and a team to be determined in the Gold Cup prelims. Morris, a midfielder, plays for the Columbus Crew and has started all 17 games this season with 3 assists, 3 goals with 18 shots this year. Morris finished his Indiana career after being named the 2019 College Soccer News All-Freshman Team. Among many other honors, he scored 2 goals in his Hoosier career and registered 8 assists. So more Hoosiers in the pros, and there are so many playing soccer. It's crazy. It's nuts. But congratulations to Thomas Bryant, on winning a ring, period. He's a champion. He is a champion. He did not get to play in the series clinching win over the Heat on Tuesday night. And he did not play in the entire series with Miami as he sat behind two-time NBA MVP winner and NBA Finals MVP Nikola Jokic, the Joker. Yeah, not a lot of room there. Great backup, though. If I'm Thomas Bryant, I'm hoping to stay exactly where I am, too. That's a great job to have. That might be the greatest job right now on planet Earth, being backup to Nikola Jokic. The dude's a machine. Just needs a couple minutes of rest during the season, not during the playoffs, but man, that would be a great job. So congratulations to Thomas Bryant. He was inquired mid-season to the Nuggets in a trade with the Lakers because I had forgotten for a minute back after it happened. He averaged almost 10 points and 6 rebounds a game. But with Denver, his production was cut in half. But that's because who he played behind. But that's fine. That's probably what they want. It's probably what Denver wants. Hopefully he gets to stick around there. That would, like I said, that would be a hell of a job. Backup for him. The Heat roster, of course, had 2 Hoosiers, Cody Zeller and Victor Oladipo. Oladipo was injured during the playoffs. I did see Cody Zeller get playing time in there, trying to stop some of those big guys. So congratulations to Thomas Bryant on winning his ring. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Terry Morin added another assistant to the Indiana women's team on Monday. Indiana announced the hiring of Amber Smith to Terry Morin's women's basketball coaching staff. In a quote from Terry, she said she is thrilled Amber is joining them in Bloomington. Morin said in a statement, Amber is passionate, high energy. She spent 7 seasons at Kentucky and was an assistant coach for the last 5 seasons. Her first 2 seasons with Kentucky were spent as director of player development. So there you go. You got a former UK assistant on the staff at Indiana now. Probably nothing, not sure where she's originally from, so no allegiance there. Of course, last season, Indiana won the Big Ten for the first time in 40 seasons, earning a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament before getting upset by Miami. Looking forward to seeing that team play this year to see what they can bounce back and do after the horrific end of their season. And talk about a horrific end. We'll talk about the College World Series a little later. My God, great and incredible game between Texas and I'm blanking on who they were playing, but you guys will tell me here in a second. But a tremendous game. Oh, Stanford. I think it was Texas and Stanford. And this game was incredible. Back and forth. And it ends with a bloop fly ball that they can't find. The right fielder couldn't it was Texas right fielder couldn't spot it. The second baseman never saw it. The only guy that saw it was the shortstop, and he's trying, and it's in short right. And the center fielder never saw it, and it dropped. It just dropped harmlessly. Unfortunately, that was a walk-off single, RBI single. I've never seen a bloop, pop-up bloop fly ball become a walk-off single, and it sent Stanford to the College World Series. Pretty amazing stuff. Hey, we've got to take a break. We've got lots more coming up, lots to get to, lots to talk about here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with it right after this.
If you're in the market for a new vehicle, you need to visit
If you're in the market for a new vehicle, you need to visit Andy Moore. Gotta get to these comments over here. Man, I'm not used to not having discussions with somebody.
About 40 seconds. I think Mike should be here momentarily.
Cool. Did you send him the link?
Yeah, he's got it.
Some growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste what Dr. Hops is brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday, June, what did I say, 13th? Yeah, I want to make sure I didn't follow up and miss it. Mid-June already, man. Can you believe it? I mentioned earlier the College World Series is set. Watched the final team make it in last night, Stanford. Looking forward to that. That gets started this Friday. And in 2 weeks, we'll have, or 2 weeks from now, we'll have a national champion. It's always fun to watch and exciting stuff. Like I said, last night's game, that crazy ending. I still can't. Well, I guarantee you, Texas couldn't believe it ended that way, and I feel bad for them. But they may have won the game in one way or another. That's the thing you don't know. It's just how you lose, and losing in that fashion, that stinks. I mean, I couldn't imagine that. Yeah, I mentioned earlier the foul course at Indiana University ranked by Golf Week as the tied for the number 2 course in the state that you can play. So that's pretty cool. Tied with the Ross course at French Lick. Mike DeCourcy, how are you, sir?
I'm well, Jim. What on earth are you wearing?
Oh, my ugly grouper.
Wow.
That's something, yeah. The Ugly Grouper restaurant down in
Okay.
Anna Maria Island.
I see. Okay.
Part of the Endeavor Hospitality. All the restaurants that they own are in Bloomington, Bloomington, Bedford, but they own the Ugly Grouper down on Anna Maria Island. They've got this big old massive grouper that's out in front of it that he had made out of steel parts. It's just wild looking, crazy. So it is wild looking. How's Mike DeCourcy?
I'm doing great.
You'd be proud of me. I've been thinking about this for 4 days since Saturday. I watched the Champions League final with Man City and the Italian team. I can't remember the name. So
Inter they call it. It's short for Internazionale. It has also, some people know it as Inter Milan. I don't think they like being called Inter Milan, so that's sort of gone away. But so they just call them Inter.
So does that mean they get to move back up to the Premier League?
No, you're struggling.
Yeah, see, I'm still, I'm lost.
No, the Champions League is a competition for the best teams in Europe. You have to finish in the Premier League and a couple others. I think La Liga. I think Italy. You have to finish top 4 in the league to qualify for the Champions League. Some of the other leagues is top 3, or maybe in some of the small leagues, just their champion. And they have, I think, 32 teams when they started, I think. And they have 8 groups. Yeah, 32 teams, 8 groups. First 2 teams in each group advance to the knockout rounds, which is like a Sweet 16. And then they go on from there. And Saturday was the culmination of that.
Gotcha. Did you happen to catch the Texas-Stanford game last night?
I saw what happened.
Oh my God. I was watching that game and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm like, it's good because it was such a good game. The pitching was awesome. The changeup that one dude had was just killing these guys. It was just killing them. And to watch a bloop fly ball, and the shortstop probably was the person that felt worse because he's the only person that ever saw the ball and he couldn't get to it because he was too far away from it. And he's screaming and pointing and wow.
What a way to lose a game. I mean, really, it's hard to imagine a worse way to lose a game in any sport because you have gotten done what you needed to get done to win the game. If that ball's caught, the game is over. And routinely that ball is caught 909. No, really, probably even more than 999 times out of 1,000.
Yeah,
probably more than that. But on that one, they couldn't see it. I've seen that. I don't know what it is, but I've seen that more. I saw the Reds do it twice this year already, and that's so I don't know what it is, but I've seen that more often than I've ever seen it before. And so I don't know whether there's something different about the baseball or something different about the lights or what, but it's
they were talking about it that it wasn't quite dark there when that happened last night. It was in that, that weird wonky time, which that is a weird time where your eyes are trying to adjust between darkness and still not light, but man, it's not like you never played in it. It's one of those deals. That's how it goes. So Thomas Bryant, former Indiana player, wins him an NBA ring last night with the Denver Nuggets. Of course, he won it by easily sitting on the bench behind Nikola Jokic. Hey, the Jokers, that's a great job to be his backup. I cannot imagine a nicer job than, because his production just from the time he was traded from the Lakers to Denver was cut in half. His points per game, his rebounds per game. I'm like, I was like, you just got to be there when he needs you. He's a freak of nature. I'm talking about Joker. The Joker.
Jokic,
He's a
yeah.
freak of nature.
It's interesting because he played against the United States when Aaron Gordon, I think it was 2014 or 2015. I think it was 2014. Might even have been 2013. But back then, Jokic played in the U20 World Championships. And Serbia made the final. And he played, like I said, he played against Aaron Gordon. And the U.S. just owned him. He did nothing in that game. He got blown off the floor. And now it's amazing to see his growth as a player. He came back, I think, the following year, played in the Hoop Summit and was already better. And the Nuggets were really smart to take him in the second round of his draft. And he's continued to improve. And I saw a lot of tweets on Twitter last night about the big man's not gone yet. And I think there's something to that. All of basketball, shouldn't say all of basketball. The NBA has been in such a rush to run away from all the big men, and I know there are things that Jokic can do that a lot can't do, but there are a lot of things that big players can do that are being ignored by a lot of teams. And in the rush to become 3-point oriented, Denver certainly had shooters, and I think it's important that you have shooters to be able to stretch the floor so someone like Jokic can do what he did. But I think it was sort of was a statement in favor of the big man in college in the NBA that he still matters. I mean, he was the dominant player, he was as dominant as any big guy in the NBA Finals, maybe going back to Shaq. I think that was the last big man that was, as overwhelming in an NBA Finals as he's been.
I was thinking about Shaq last night, but the thing I was thinking about is he has so many tools that Shaq never dreamed of having. A free throw to start with, but his 3-point shooting is he's lethal. You can't leave him out there. I was watching, I'm like going, he's picking up the ball at midcourt. I'm like, this is a 7-foot dude's picking up the ball. I'm like, is he their point guard now? I'm like, he is just interchangeable. Their offense just makes it so difficult for people when you've got a 7-foot point guard, and that's kind of what they have in him, a hybrid point guard center, whatever that position is.
I think one of the things that I believe in the way this country develops players. And if you don't, then check out the final score of the U16 Continental Championship that happened on Sunday night when the U.S. played against Canada. And I believe it was something like 106-38 or something like that. That was the final. So I believe in the way this country develops basketball players. I think there are some things that still need work, but I think we need to work harder on making our big men more skilled, more variety of skills. I still don't think that's happening often enough. A young guy gets obviously tall, we stick him by the basket. Block shots, put it in. That's all. And I think that to be what Nikola Jokic is or what Joel Embiid is, you have to be working with the basketball in all phases of the game all the way through your development.
I forgot about Jared Jeffries taking part in the celebration as well. So for Denver, Andy says that from an IU perspective, Jared Jeffries was key in the Nuggets' decision to drafting Jokic. And maybe there's truth to that from what you said.
Call, man. They're out there. Teams are out there trying to lose to get to players. And there's Nikola Jokic, the best player in the NBA the last 5 years, who was sitting there for every single team that had a pick to take and a few that had a second pick to take. And there he was, and he gets selected and becomes, as I said, he was drafted in 2015. By his third year, he's a terrific player, averaging 18 and 10. By his seventh year, he's one of the best players in the league. As I said, I think more of our young big guys need to be trained how to play away from the goal. They're not all going to be Nikola Jokic, but they're going to have more success in the NBA if it happens.
How about our Reds, man? I can't believe that I'm even looking to the standings to talk about the Reds each day, but I'm like, they won again? What are you kidding me?
How about that? They almost blew it last night. Gave up a home run with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th, but then they came back. And I will say, I know that baseball purists hate it, but I like the sticking the guy on second base rule. I do. I just you don't need to play 20 innings. I don't know if the rule. You might know this. I don't know. I don't follow it closely enough to know this. But I don't know if they're going to do it in the postseason, and I don't think they should. I think it should revert back to play 30 innings if it takes it that, in the way that Stanley Cup hockey does. You have the 5-minute 3-on-3 overtime in the regular season, and then the shootout to determine the winner, and so that the game doesn't last forever. But then you get into the Stanley Cup playoffs, and if it takes forever, they'll take forever. I think baseball should do that. To be honest, like I said, I don't know that, but I like the rule. I like putting the guy on second base and trying to get a decision. That way you like last night. I was tired. It's past 11. I got to get up to work the next day, and if that game had gone in extra innings after the home run, I'd have just packed it in and checked the score in the morning. But because I knew they were going to have that thing where you put the guy on second, can you get him home? Can you hold the other team from doing it? I stayed up for that because I knew it would probably end reasonably soon. And so I'm in favor of it. Like I said, I know the purists hate it, but it doesn't affect every game. I don't like major changes to sports that fundamentally alter the nature of the game in the way, say, that the NBA's timeout rule does at the end, where you can advance the ball 50 feet for no cost. That changes what the game is. This doesn't change it. This doesn't change every game, and it only impacts those games that go into extra innings. And most important, it's the same for both teams.
Yeah,
the NBA rule is not. The trailing team has an advantage because of the advance the ball rule. It's a very, very meager advantage for the leading team. It's a godsend for the trailing team. So it's a bad rule.
And Major League Baseball is smart enough that they do not continue that in the playoffs.
That's what I was asking. Yeah.
So I am fine. I'm fine with it during the season. Speed up games. I agree with you 1,000%. And there's no reason for all that extra wear and tear. Nobody wants to see a game go 23 innings into the third inning. Not that it happens every day, but it doesn't need to happen when it doesn't need to. There's 162 games, so you've got plenty.
I covered in my 1 year of covering baseball in St. Louis, of all places, probably in a June game where it was about 95 degrees and 95% humidity. I covered one that went 18 innings. It was agony. And I was just sitting there. I can't imagine what it was like for the players out on the field in that soup. It was hard enough to breathe sitting there in the Busch Stadium press box and having to deal with the fact that it was going 17, 18 innings. But there you go. It eliminates. It doesn't eliminate the possibility of that, but it mitigates the possibility of that.
Absolutely looking forward to that. And will the Reds keep their team together? That's my always fear. They got all this young talent. Are they building? Are they really building for the future, or are they building as a business to make money?
Well, I think that I'm not as worried about keeping it together at this point, because most of the players that matter are relatively new in their careers. I don't think we're reaching the breaking point with many of those guys. Hunter Green really talented pitcher. I think they've already looked at trying to sign him, or maybe you've already signed him. De La Cruz, long way away from worrying about that. So I don't think they have that big a worry. The question for me is, they obviously need another starting pitcher for this team to have a chance to do real things. And I don't know how real the things will be, but something. Do you do it? Do you bring in a veteran starter from some team that's not going to do anything this year? I don't know, Kansas City, Oakland, whoever, maybe somebody not as forlorn as that, but still out of it. Do you do that, or you just ride it out? And I those are the things that make me most crazy about the system as it is. The system itself is a joke, but the system as it is, if you get into the picture, you've got to take your shot. I don't know that this season is that season, but I still think that they could, if they get another starting pitcher without necessarily giving up too much, that they could, that not maybe somebody with a year and a half left on his contract. So this year and next year, he could matter in a playoff push, something like that. I think they got to look at that. If they're able to continue this play for another month.
Mike DeCourcy from Sporting News with me right now. We've got more. We'll be back with that right after this break.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether it's at our place or yours.
That sucked about Bob yesterday.
Yeah, terrible. Just terrible. I hate when.
I don't guess he saw it coming. I don't know if he saw it coming or not.
Yeah, I don't think they did as a group. I don't think they did. Because he was not the only one that was.
Oh no, it was 20, like 20 of them.
Yeah, I don't think they had an inkling of that, and Bob's a good guy, an old colleague. I worked with Bob early in my career, and he's a great writer, really is. I worked with him early in my career at the Pittsburgh Press.
That's funny.
He did not, he came in, he was really talented, and he did not last long there because he was there, I don't know, maybe a year and change, and Sports Illustrated swooped him up, so he's had a great career, and I hope gets the opportunity to finish off as he wants. I think we're ballpark the same age, give or take.
It seems that I would guess that.
So I hope he gets to finish up the way he wants to. I know he said on Twitter that Adam Schefter from ESPN put out a nice tweet about him this morning, and Bob indicated to Adam that he hopes he's not done.
There's no way. He's too guys. That's what I said. I go, Bob's too good, and it would not be good for us as readers to not have him. It just wouldn't, especially today in today's climate.
Yeah,
of all time, we need people like you and Bob and Rick Bozich. That's why I love having you guys on, because that's where I have the ultimate respect for all of you all, and I don't want the new.
Oh well, the new is good in a lot of cases.
I'm just saying, I like experience, I like vision from lots of different angles, and the new hasn't seen, because they weren't they. And I'm not blaming the new, and I'm calling them the new like they're coming out of a box or something. But it's not having seen the sports landscape. All of y'all have seen it change go from here to here and be this and be that and all of that. And when you don't experience those kinds of things, it's hard to really put yourself in those positions, I think. Well,
I'm going to defend the younger group, the ones who do it right, and they're plenty.
They're good.
Because I was that then, and I thought I knew everything, and I had opinions when I was in my 20s, and I had experiences and obviously I've learned a lot since then, but that's not to say I was invalid then.
Easiest way to avoid decision fatigue. You pick your plan and pick up at BB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Tuesday. Thanks a lot for being with us here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle. I'm joined by the great Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News and Big Ten Network. Mike, Alabama hired Maryland's baseball coach. I saw yesterday. Was it Rob? Rob Vaughn, from Maryland. Had a great year. Indiana had a great year in baseball until they played Maryland. In a three, you may already know this, but in a 3-game series with Maryland, they gave up 40 runs to the Terrapins. Maryland scored 80 runs that week. They were on fire, but he moves on to Alabama now after that gambling probe. The gambling thing, I will say, I was amazed how quickly they caught all of that stuff. It was like boom, 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 boom. And hopefully that sent shockwaves through, hopefully.
I hope it did too. This is one of the reasons why I've always believed that legal sports gambling would be a good thing, because the people who have, or the enterprises that have the greatest investment in the integrity of the game are the leagues, the associations, whoever is in charge of that particular sport, whether it's the NCAA during their tournament, or the Big Ten during the Big Ten season, or the NFL or the MLB or whatever. They have the greatest investment. But the second greatest investment are the sports books. The games need to be up on the up and up for the sports books to succeed. They can't be crooked. And so, like, when you have had these circumstances where, what's the word I'm looking for? Where there have been unequal things, where there have been irregularities. That's the word I'm looking for. Irregularities. Where there have been irregularities.
Great word.
99.9999% of the time, it's the legal books that are catching it. That's who figures it out. This is not right. This is not how it's supposed to work. We've done this a zillion times. That's not how it goes. They're the ones that flag these things. So I don't look at sports gambling. And first of all, I mean, when I say this is coming from the perspective of someone who has placed, I believe, one sports bet in the last 5 years. I'm not a regular gambler. I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed to it. I'm very much in favor of it. It's just not something I do. But I believe that we need to look at this. We need to get rid of the juvenile attitude we have toward gambling that's been reinforced by years of illegality. Because it is a positive force in the integrity of sports. Now, when you have athletes who are breaking the rules of their associations or their leagues, they need to be punished. And in most cases, those rules are not hard to follow at all. When in the days when I was a young person and Alex Karras got into trouble, or Denny McClain, the rules were much more difficult. They were much more stringent. But now, if you're an NFL player, they're not saying don't gamble. They're not telling you got to stay out of the casino. They're not telling you can't bet on sports. All they're saying is, essentially, as simplified as much as possible, you cannot bet on NFL games at all, not until you're not player anymore.
Yeah, you can't bet on your sport.
You can't bet on team property, which they define as their stadium, their training facilities, and when you're together on the road in a hotel, that counts too. Not sure why that is, but it's not that hard to know that. And they in the NFL, after they had one incident last year where a player was suspended for that, they sent people out to educate everybody and said, okay, here's the deal. And you listened or you didn't. But here's the thing. When it comes down to gambling, wouldn't you understand, like, am I allowed to do this? Maybe I better check. Because you're not just gambling the 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 or whatever you might be gambling. If you're an NFL player, you're betting your paycheck on it. So you would probably say, am I allowed to do this? Think I better check. So they're told, they listened or they didn't, and then they got to the point of placing the bet and didn't double check. Sorry. Don't have any sympathy for that. And I don't buy at all this nonsense about, well, the NFL makes money off it, so how can they? Hey, the NFL has a ton of beer commercials in their programming. They sell beer in every stadium. They sell hard liquor, or they get, exactly, depending on the level of your sweet level, they either give it to you or they sell it to you, hard liquor, et cetera, et cetera. But they're not telling guys, oh, it's okay to go drink and drive home. No, you gotta follow what's logical and what's legal. So they're not asking that much from the players. And so I don't have any problem at all with what the NFL has done to this point, with the way they've handled this. I don't see any hypocrisy in it at all. The rules are not draconian. They're easy to follow. All you have to do is make sure that you're staying within them if you have any question. And as I said, they're not that challenging to follow. So colleges are a little different. They're a little bit more stringent. I'm not sure that the college rules need to be as stringent as they are. But what we've seen, players getting into trouble for gambling activities, or in some cases, teams getting into trouble. Those incidents, the one in Alabama, I get it. I get why it worked out the way it did.
I think that the colleges could be primed with the transfer portal now. You've got so many people that are so many different places that were so many. If a guy was that cared more about betting, if he was an athlete, man, he could probably say, hey, call his friends that are on all these different teams now and say, hey, what's going on with that team? I'm not saying it's happening. It's just the NCAA is more open up to that, more susceptible, I think, than the pros. But those guys don't have the money that those pros have.
But again, this is where the legal sports books are so helpful. I mean, They found it in college baseball. Like, nobody's watching college baseball.
That did blow my mind. And I mean, and they caught it right now.
Yeah. They found the problem in college baseball. And I'm not being dismissive. The College World Series stuff's going on now. People are getting into it. They're enjoying it. I'm not being dismissive of that. But in the regular season, come on, man, there aren't that many people paying attention. And yet they found it because that's what they do. So if we were to see something untoward in college football or college basketball, they'd catch it.
I think the guy was too greedy. I think I don't know this. I think there must have been too much of a substantial bet on a game that, just like you just said, that, wait a minute, what's going on here? Why this? And it was bing, bing, red flag. That was dumb on his part. And then how does a college coach take a phone call? And I don't know what the call was about. Maybe the coach didn't know. I don't know what the conversation was, but I'm just, how in the hell does a college coach take a phone call from a guy about making a bet. I don't know if that's what he talked about, if it was just talking about injury or who's pitching, who's not pitching, because I think that's what went into that. But that blew my mind. And Alabama,
I don't know what happened, but I do know in my own dealings, I know every college basketball coach just about, right? I'm not calling Tom Izzo a half hour before tip-off or whatever, I mean, and he's not taking my call half hour before tip-off. So I don't know, because there are certain things you don't do. You don't interact with people in advance of competition. You go into a locker room in an NBA game or a Major League Baseball game, you can do that before the first pitch or before tip-off, but you're not knocking on the door. Let's see, it's 7:30 for tip-off. I'm going to go try to get in at 7:10. No, I mean, the locker room's open like an hour and a half before. That's your time to get in there. And that doesn't get the sanctity of that doesn't get violated. So I can't really know exactly what happened in that circumstance, but I know people who have access to those people don't usually bother them close to competition.
I know that recruiting is not something that you're actively following because it's ridiculous to do it for the first part. But it is just always something that people like to talk about. Indiana right now has an open spot that they have talked to various guys. Joey Hart is a kid who grew up not far from Bloomington, who originally was committed to Central Florida, and then his recruiting blew up like so many kids do when they get opportunities and are seen more. Visited Kentucky, he's visited Indiana, and he's kind of waiting, and I think he's waiting to see if Indiana is going to take somebody above him. If not, he's going to take that spot, which it has gotten down to where it is really like playing cards now, because he would be a freshman and considered a 4-year guy. And I consider college basketball a 2-year sport now. It's a 2 years. I call it a 2-year cyclical. I mean, you're going to have some 1-year guys, but I think I think the average player will be at a school for 2 years.
Yeah, I think there's probably some truth to that. But when you average in guys who pop through as one and dones or two and dones, and then you average in the guys who transfer reasonably quickly, the Trey Galloways are going to be rare. I don't think there's any question about that. Because first of all, you have to be good enough to make some impact quickly, or there's a good chance you're moving on. That part of it is the frustration because guys like with Joey Hart's recruiting profile sign at a place like Indiana or Kentucky or Rutgers. But at any of those places, it's going to be challenging for him to get court time as a freshman. Not to say he can't, but it's going to be challenging. So he knows that going in at all three places. He goes to, I don't know, Ball State or Indiana State or wherever, there's probably a lot of run for a guy like him quickly. But if he wants to, so he goes to any of those three places, it's going to be a challenge. And again, if he goes out there and starts popping in threes, he's going to get on the floor, but it's not going to be easy. So you would think that they go into a player with Joe, again, I'm not saying Joey, but a player with Joey's recruiting profile would go into a circumstance like one of those three and say, okay, I know it's going to take some time. There's a good chance it's going to take some time. But we're not seeing that. We're seeing guys with his recruiting profile choose a school like that, and when it doesn't happen right away, they're gone. And that's the frustration for me, because it's logical that it's going to take a little time, that you probably won't play a ton your first year. Now, again, if you work really hard and you do really well, maybe you can, but odds are against it. And yet everybody thinks that, well, they're going to be the exception. There aren't that many exceptions. It's the Braden Smiths are rare. I don't think that Purdue, when they took Braden, thought he was going to be their starting point guard as a freshman. He came into camp, started blowing everybody away, and they were convinced very quickly. But there was a very good chance that it was going to take him a year to get to where he needed to be. I think Purdue does a very good job of bringing in players who understand that it might take them some time, but that they'll be treated fairly, and that if they continue to work hard, they'll get that opportunity. I think that's too rare.
I agree with you. Mike DeCourcy, Sporting News, Big Ten Network. Can't thank you enough, brother. I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Jim.
Mike DeCourcy with us. We've got more coming up. We'll be back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the market for a new vehicle, you need to
Comma. I actually have to be diligent on brakes now because of we added Fort Wayne, but they only use the first hour right now. Period. Hello. All right. Man, you're all getting off on, you're going crazy about Flory Badunga. Relax, people. Did you think Duke was not going to get involved? He's going to be the top player in the country. They won't be the only one. What time is Chronic? Is he now or 9:50?
He'll be at 9:50.
Thank you very much, Joe, the producer.
Of course.
Joe, the producer. Joe, the producer. That's what you'd have to be JJTP instead of JTP. So I have a JTP, but not have a JJTP.
That rolls off the tongue a little better than JTP2. $30 seconds.
with a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday, it's June 13th. Appreciate you for bringing along with us. Just finished up with the great Mike DeCourcy. I could sit there and talk to him for an hour. Just throw a subject out. Pick a subject out of a hat. Don't forget, we're coming to you from the mobile unit of Golf Club at Eagle Point. And don't forget to get out and play some golf at the Point. It's in excellent shape. What was it, 60, a high of 68 degrees there yesterday? What did y'all put in an order for perfect weather? And the message board has just been going nuts with talks about Flory Badunga because Duke getting involved. And I just kind of laugh. And because did you not think that Duke was going to get involved? He's the top player in the country. He may not be ranked number 1 right now, but he probably will be. And if not, he's looked as that. So yeah, they're going to get involved. And I kept seeing people say that this is where he dreamed of growing to playing. Well, he didn't even start playing basketball until it hasn't been that long. Yeah, that's whatever happens. A, B, he's potentially one and done. We'll see. He's got to get strong enough. Russell's saying that Jim that he's always been a Duke fan. Well, he hadn't even always been a basketball fan, so you can't say he's always been a Duke fan. He didn't even know what basketball was. And when did his Duke love begin? It didn't begin in Africa, in the Congo. So, and I'm not saying that he does not like Duke or whatever. I don't know who his favorite team growing up or as whenever he became enjoying the game. But that stuff, as a fan, you guys can't worry about that. I mean, you get who you get, and that's how it goes. You're worrying about it doesn't do anything. You've got a ton of talent that has to be built around him. Robert says it did begin in the Congo, that his love for Duke, that his said he would watch Duke since he was a kid in his home in his country. I'd always heard he didn't even start playing basketball until shortly before coming here. But either way, yeah, and if he did, well, Duke was probably making an impression because they were winning. Fred says, Flores been to Assembly Hall for a game. How do you not want to be part of that? Well, they don't look at it that way. You could say that about going to Cameron. You could say that about going to Fog Island. I mean, those are great environments. And two of those teams are winning at a higher level right now. But there's teams all over that are winning now. How long is Flory even going to be in college? Well, that's his decision is not looming either way. He's been to Assembly Hall plenty of times. He has a relationship, or Mike Woodson has and staff have developed whatever relationship they can develop. And I think that relationships, period, will win out over that childhood fandom thing. Not saying that it couldn't come to fruition of wherever he ends up, but I think when it comes down to it, he's going to do what's best for him at the time. He's not playing for Mike Krzyzewski. He won't be playing for Mike Krzyzewski if he goes to Duke. And if that isn't true, what you guys are all saying, well, he grew up watching Mike Krzyzewski. That's like saying somebody grew up watching the Indiana teams of Bob Knight. That's not how it's been for a long time. So, yeah, that's stuff that I just wait to happen. Wait till it's closer to happening, at least. I mean, he wants to make a decision before his senior year, which a few months off. And this is an absolute, Russell says, recruiting changes on a dime. It all changed Sunday after Duke made contact, but whatever you all want to think. So he thinks that Russell's under the impression that the recruiting is over. There are a lot of facets that's going to go into his recruiting. You know, the son of the guy who he's coached under for years is an assistant at Cincinnati. You think that has no bearing? Who he has a relationship with? I'm not saying he's going to Cincinnati, but and if he goes wherever he goes, that's it. But got to let stuff play out, man. And when you say that, I see guys, let's see, what were some of these comments? You know, that people are saying that that was reported. When you want to say that, that's fine, but tell me where. Tell me where you saw it. You've got to be specific. You can't just say that, oh, yeah, I heard this. No. Give us, I'll talk about anything, but you've got to give me specifics on where this was, that came from, other than a rumor, a board or a site board or something like that, fan board where people are talking. The recruiting world continues to go on. As I said, Boogie Fland, 5-star point guard, begins his IU visit tonight. So that's one to pay a little bit more attention to, as he'll be in the hall this evening. Purdue has not had to do much recruiting. They pretty much have their core. I haven't heard a lot about Notre Dame after some success from Micah Shrewsbury. That's going to be interesting to see the job he does. I think he's going to do a hell of a job, and I hope he does. He was born in Jeffersonville, Indiana, grew up in Indianapolis. Oh my, another Indiana coach. Almost. I guess you have to consider Butler a major program. Yes. 3 out of the 4 major programs are coached by Indiana natives. I don't know where Notre Dame's women's coaches is from, because I know Indiana and Purdue's women's coaches are both from Indiana, both Indiana natives. There can't be a state in the country that has, and I'm talking about, you know, Purdue, Matt Painter, Mike Woodson at Indiana, Micah Shrewsbury at Notre Dame. Those 3 guys are all Hoosier natives. Terry Morin, the coach at Purdue, I don't remember her name. And I do not know if Notre Dame's coach. Now, Butler, of course, Thad Matta, although he's lived in Indiana a long time. He's almost, but I do not know where he was born. As I quickly look it up, where was he born? Out of curiosity. Wow. You're not going to believe the name of this town. Hoopeston, Illinois. Thad Matta was born in Hoopeston. I don't know how you say it. It's Hoopeston, but it starts with hoop. How funny is that? But close to being an Indiana guy. I mean, he went to Southern Illinois and Butler, coached at Indiana State, Butler, Miami of Ohio. He got out of it when he went to Western Carolina, back to Miami of Ohio, Butler, Butler, Xavier, Ohio State, and Butler. And then when he was on the staff at Indiana, he has never, other than that 1 year in 95 at Western Carolina, never left the a circle around this state either. So you could almost say all four of these guys. Pretty amazing. There's no other state that can even come close to talking about that. So that's pretty amazing. And I don't know that anybody pays attention to that stuff. It's never been like that here. Indiana's first basketball coach that was not an IU grad was Robert Montgomery Knight. So Indiana spent 30 years not having someone from Indiana as the coach. Just weird little things that you learn. Then, and earlier I mentioned money. It seems we all know that sports are about money, built on money, made for money, but it is just getting to the zenith. You've got the PGA LIV Live Tour merger, which is still boggling my mind that it's like this is akin to the United States and Russia opening up some kind of therapy school for people together during the Cold War. This is like the United States and Iran going into a merger for an oil business during the Iraqi war. It's just, it was not long that the PGA was basically calling these guys the axis of evil. And now they're in bed with them. You have NIL, money. It's all about the Benjamins, baby. And it always has been, but it is now. Is it getting away from us? There's too that's a lot. There's all the money there's so much money in sports, which we have always known that, but the riches are just they're not unending resources. Will NIL find a level, or is it where it is? It's going to be interesting 10 years, 8, 9, 10 years from now to go back and look at a couple things. Look at the transfer portal, the effects, and NIL. Both coming at the same time, no doubt. So, man, we've got a lot more coming up. The man, Chronic Hoosier, will join us. Up next on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Metalworks Brewing Company. Served in all the Endeavor hospitality restaurants, or you can go right to the source. Just off the square on 6th Street in Bloomington. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether it's at our place or yours.
Hello, Chronic.
What up, Jim?
How are you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. I'm a little disappointed talking about all these great Indiana coaches, and you forget Mike Lewis.
Oh God!
I'll give you a pass on Dave Ragland at Evansville, but come on, man, Mike Lewis. This state is chock full of homeboys. It's what makes Indiana basketball so good.
There's no excuse for that one. Oh my God! But that makes it even more amazing. I'm pissed about myself.
That's why the state is what it is when it comes to basketball. At top to bottom, there's just phenomenal coaching all the way around. And that tree.
Who's at Evansville?
Dave Ragland, Evansville native, no less. I think he played down at Harrison.
Who's damn it.
Terre Haute's got somebody over there. I think he's a Florida guy. I forget where Shirts is from. I don't believe he's local.
Oh, let's see. Who's I thinking of? Damn it. Oh, I have no idea who the women's coach at Butler. Women's basketball coach Butler. Austin Parkinson. Well, I don't know who that is. How you been, man?
Been really good, man. Really good. How about you?
Cannot complain. Nobody wants to listen to it. Just getting after trying to. These people are all on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. They're going nuts over Floyd Badunga that word that Duke got involved. I'm like, well, did you think that they weren't going to get involved?
You know, we are quickly returning to the movement era when it comes to the expectations of the recruiting trail. And it's wild how quickly that can take off. I'm still sitting here scratching my head going, you think about 2 months ago and what the general perception was of IU's off season. And it was such a roller coaster, people ready to declare us national champs versus ready, to say we're never making the tournament again and then back. And now all of a sudden it's like, how are we going to miss any of these guys in the top 50? Like it's just, that's wild. It's certainly wild, but it should be a blessing to be fighing against Duke for recruits. Well, just straight up, considering where we were literally just 2 months ago, the fact that Indiana is legitimately in with this many high level guys is nothing short of remarkable.
Indiana seems to be in as with. Go ahead. What'd you say, Joe?
Experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point's mobile unit here. Logos and promotions. Joined now by the great Chronic Hoosier. Chronic, how are you, brother?
Glad to be back, Jim. Thanks for having me.
It is lovely to have you as always. I've just kind of been watching the Andy Moore Honda hotline over here, and the people are up in arms that Duke has shown reached out to Floyd Badunga, which I'm like, did you expect him not to? He's one of the top recruits in the country. That's what they get reached out to by everybody when you're that good, and you win recruiting battles or you don't. But whether they win that one or not, it would be great to. He's a no doubt seems to be a game changer. But if they're that good, you're looking at maybe a one and done. But you also have to worry about always having a team that works together. And we talked about in the break. Indiana has so many guys right now. You got Boogie Flan starting a visit. They just finished with Jaden Mustaf. It's one after another. They're going to get theirs. Indiana is getting them now. The battle to win Mbako. They won over Kansas to get Mbako. It's It's working. They're getting the guys. They're getting, first was getting into being the finalist, getting them on campus and all that stuff. Well, now the next stage is starting to happen.
Yeah, I think perspective is certainly the premium currently when it comes to the state of IU basketball recruiting. As we were talking about during the break, a couple months ago, we went from fans speculating that IU's recruiting run is going to lead to an imminent national championship to we may never make the tournament again as some of the portal moves, started to fizzle out. To now all of a sudden, Mike Woodson's back to being the best thing since sliced bread on the recruiting trail. And it's kind of wild how quickly that has kind of gone up and down. And here we are now, with the 23 class mostly in the books, with that one vacancy still remaining, and the staff still exploring their options there. Most of the attention focused on the 24 class. And lo and behold, IU is solidly in position with a multitude of high-level guys right now, and I think it's personally nothing short of remarkable. The arc that Woody has put the program on when it comes to elevating the profile and attracting this caliber of talent, and I think that's just going to continue here with the draft coming up. Quite frankly, when you see a couple Hoosiers get selected, but again, as I was saying over the break, it's kind of shades of 2013 with the movement and all that. I guess that was the 12 class that came in, but it's real easy to get real full of yourself when kids start looking at your program more favorably. That being said, it is absolutely a privilege to be a finalist or to be in whatever grouping, in this recruits rankings, with the likes of the Dukes, the Arizonas, the Kansases, the Michigan States for that matter. Because let's be honest, IU wasn't, regularly competing for talent in recent years at that level. So the fact that they're there this quickly, I think just speaks volumes to the work the staff has done on the recruiting trail, but also on the floor, because, success attracts more success. And you start getting some of your guys in the draft, you start getting some of these 5 stars on campus, they get to talking. And, who knows where the momentum leads. And we've said before, I felt like this offseason, this coming year was going to be really, really critical for Mike Woodson in the longer term, because, you've had a couple years now where you've laid the tape down. These guys aren't, talking, you're not looking at plays, or you're not drawing stuff up on paper. There's film that shows how you play ball, that shows how you're going to use your guys in different situations. And, these kids, even, the juniors, the underclassmen in high school, these kids are no strangers to grinding tape and just running it down and looking at the film and seeing these things. So I think it's critically important that, that the tape back up the pitch, if you will. You've got to put your money where your mouth is. And, what Mike Woodson did with Jalen Hood-Schifino, what they did with Trace Jackson Davis, that's going to resonate for some time. And it's going, there's a theory in communications, primus recency. We remember most what we hear first and last. So what you did lately is always going to be at the forefront. And, getting guys drafted, turning guys into pros is going to be one of your best pitches that you can make at this level when you're recruiting that caliber player. So it's no surprise that you've got them showing interest. At the end of the day, the proof's in the pudding. We'll see who signs ultimately, and we'll see what that nets Indiana. But at the end of the day, amass all the talent you can get and figure out how to make it work together later. Because of this day and age of NIL and the portal and everything else, you're constantly rebuilding your roster. So, obviously you got to have a little bit of a long-term outlook. But at the end of the day, you got to put the best team on the floor for the coming season and then just rinse and repeat year after year. And, if you want to compete at that level, you got to get used to this type of competition for the talent, because this is exactly what John Calipari's been doing for the last 15 years. This is exactly what Mike Krzyzewski, how he finished his career at Duke, and all the other Blue Bloods for that matter here in the modern era of basketball. Now that NIL and the transfer portal have leveled that field a little bit, giving these guys a little bit more freedoms, as we've said, I think Indiana is poised and in prime position to take advantage of it. And that's what you're seeing right now. There's the two things go hand in hand. So we'll see who ultimately signs or at least commits. Can't sign for months to come now. But I think it's just it's nothing short of remarkable that here we are now with all these guys. We're not that many years removed from the Grant Galons or even the Logan Duncans for that matter.
Absolutely, and to see what happens on draft night will be a boon for Indiana. Hearing those names called, whether of course it will be Jalen Schifino and Trace Jackson Davis, both hearing the names of two guys getting drafted, that continues to boost, especially though with Jalen Schifino, because he's young and these guys are young. All these guys coming in, dreams of the NBA. You've got Mike Woodson and all the experience, not just with him, but his entire staff has from the NBA. I mean, people forget, you got Randy Whitman on staff. Hello. What college team has two former NBA head coaches?
You got Calbert Chaney back on the roster, the GOAT.
Exactly.
And it's not just that he played there. It's not just, that he spent quite a bit of time there. He's literally in player development. You want to know what it takes to get to the next level. Well, Calbert was just doing that this year. He was literally coaching professional basketball players right up the road in Banker's Life, trying to get the most out of their game. It's formidable. It certainly is. But I think you're right when you mentioned Jalen Hood-Schifino. When you're recruiting the 5-star caliber players, the guys that have legitimate aspirations and one and done, that's the golden ticket right there. Is being able to deliver on that promise that you're going to get them in position, not just to make the draft, but to elevate their stock, beyond where they were when they committed to the program. So I think that is probably the ideal draft for Indiana, short of having more guys in it. You've got one guy that was a development player over the course of a 4-year career, one guy that came in and was able to make the leap in 1 year. So I think you show a gamut of potential for what the staff is capable of with different styles of players, as far as how long they spend in college, but also in their position on the floor. So I think that bodes immensely well for Indiana. And I think that's likely a large reason why you're seeing these guys suddenly warming up to Indiana to the degree that they are. And I think that also speaks volumes for how guys view the coaching, the instruction they receive from inside the locker room. Because, while the recruits love to talk, make no mistake, they're talking to players, guys that have been on the roster, guys that have been through practices and the seasons, wanting to know what it's like. And you see Hood-Schifino's comments publicly. You could not write better copy when it comes to, player endorsement of the program and of the coaching staff. So we'll see where it all goes, but it's certainly the trajectory that you absolutely love to see for the Indiana Hoosiers.
And also, dang on, what lost what I was going to say. Oh yeah, Indiana has with this open scholarship right now that they are kind of in a holding pattern on. I think it seems to be with Joey Hart a potential to fill that, but I'm not sure if he is waiting. What's what I've heard that he might be waiting to see if Indiana potentially signs a for lack of a better way to put it, a bigger name, which a lot of times that would send somebody running someplace else saying, man, I need to be needed. But I'm not saying that that's the case, but they seem to be in a holding pattern with that last scholarship.
Yeah, and we continue to this day to see guys entering the portal. So there's still tons of moving pieces on the board. And, part of it too is just logistics. The staff is out in full force on the recruiting trail right now during this open period. Meanwhile, you've got all the new guys back in town, getting acclimated to the program, starting the summer conditioning program. So there's a lot going on. But, one thing we know is there's one spot left, and the staff certainly seems inclined, if the opportunity's right, to fill it. I haven't got the inclination that Woody's content to bank that one down the road. I think he's very much of the the mindset that you go out and get the best available talent. And, as the field starts to dwindle as far as the available prospects, it just heightens the importance of making sure that decision is right. It's going to be the right fit for the program, both short term and long term. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's still some recruiting news here in the next 2 weeks as June starts to draw to a close here.
Oh, absolutely, because something has to happen because the workouts have begun. The guys have already moved in. They're starting all the things they do together. And yeah, you can't be too much later to the party than that, I don't think. Let's see. Then, of course, Indiana, we also have a team that is a bunch of new faces, 6, potentially 7 if someone else joins them. But already half of Indiana's roster is going to be new to fans next season. And it's new to each other. These guys, you got half the team that are getting to know each other, that are coming together. That's just a larger than normal amount. But that doesn't have any bearing on things, but they're doing all those things today. They do all those, when you see all those pictures, people, it's important. Bonding. I mean, those guys have to come together and they have to, but it doesn't matter what team it is or what sport it is. You have to trust and know that he has your back, you have his back, etc. And this is how you start doing all those things.
Yeah. And, I think the continuity is something that gets overlooked, that makes it increasingly difficult for programs when you lose so many players, and you can, again, go back to that movement class, for what was supposed to be transformative for Indiana. You had one guy in the 2012 recruiting class who actually finished his eligibility here, Yogi Farrell. You lost through attrition, Hannah Perea, Ron Patterson, Peter Jerkin, Jeremy Hollowell. You lost 2/3 of your class prior to that with Austin Etherington and Remy Abel. You retained about basically half of the subsequent class, and then the class after that in 2014. So it just makes it exponentially more difficult when you're constantly losing those pieces that in that era you were assuming were going to be there for the duration, whether it be 4-year guys, 3-year, etc. You've got to have that continuity. And it's not to say that you can't get it right. It doesn't hurt when you follow all that up with the class of Juwan Morgan, Thomas Bryant, and OG Anunoby. But when those guys departed, you saw what was left. So even a home run class, a grand slam class, sometimes isn't going to be what you need in order to make up for 4 years of majority attrition in your recruiting. So it's one of those things where you really have to balance the short term and the long term. But you tend to look at those teams that go deep in March, and man, when coaches talk about getting old and staying old, you really understand why.
Let's see. Indiana, like I said, Boogie Flynn beginning his visit tonight, another 5-star point guard that Woody's gotten in. Something else with Denver winning the NBA Finals. I haven't looked, I haven't had time, but did Indiana send out a congratulatory thing to Thomas Bryant just to use that as a marketing thing?
They absolutely did. And it was immediately after I saw that. I look on Instagram and there's Thomas Bryant with his best Jokic face, just completely nonplussed, wearing his goggles in the locker room celebrating. So it tickled me, though, because I remember there's a real poignant image of Thomas Bryant just slumped in a chair in the locker room after they lost in 2016 with his head on Tom Crean's shoulder, just absolutely despondent. It was an extraordinarily emotional picture, and Coach and Tom Bryant got pillared for it pretty heavily. I remember that was a punching bag there for a while on the internet. So absolutely thrilled for Thomas Bryant, for a guy that just has an unbelievable motor. Just one of the more emotive players, one of the more emotional players in recent memory. The guy that just wears his heart on his sleeve and gives his all every time he laces him up. Could not be happier to see him, the opposite of that emotion. or of that picture celebrating a world championship last night with his team, and Jared Jeffries, former Denver VP, if I'm not mistaken. He was in the front office out there for quite some time with the Nuggets. JJ in the locker room shotgunning beers last night was probably the funniest thing I woke up to today.
Yeah,
you can take the boy out of Bloomington, but you cannot take Bloomington out of B-Town's first Indiana Mr. Basketball.
Yeah, incredible. Man, I can't thank you enough, Chronic. What's up next for you, brother?
It's a great question, Jim. Summer's in full swing, man. We've reached the point where I'm trying to schedule, hey, let's get together for a beer. Well, let me check my calendar. How's middle of August look for you? Like on a Tuesday night, maybe 9:30? No, it's awesome. Busy. Just got back from Chicago. Got to see the good old Grateful Dead up at Wrigley.
Oh,
and,
wow, really? At Wrigley. Wow, very, very cool. Do they do a lot of concerts there?
Sometimes in the summer, yeah. I've seen Fish there. I've seen the Dead there. I've seen Dead at Soldier. It's not bad. It's kind of a funky venue, but it's always cool to walk into the friendly confines. But no, man, we're just chasing a good time everywhere we can find it this summer, trying to keep up with the kids, trying to make the most out of it, because you blink and it's gone.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to quickly look up they have a 2023 concert series at Wrigley Field. You just saw Dead and Company. Fall Out Boy comes up. Morgan Wallen. Oh my, that would be a big one, won't it?
Yeah. Yes. Trust me, my daughter has had me chasing some of those tickets, and that's crazy talk. I know what the Swifties are going through right now.
Yeah, that's as soon as I saw that name, I'm like, whoop, that would be the only way I could see my daughter this summer, probably, if I said, hey, I guess what? I have tickets.
It was either that or a car, and she got a car.
She already has that. Well, man, I appreciate you, sir. You have a great one.
We'll catch you next week. Thanks, Jim.
The great Chronic Hoosier joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with more after this break.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the market for a new
What? Uh-oh. Oh, hell no. Guns N' Roses? Oh, I got that's
yeah, buddy.
At Wrigley Field? Sign me up, please.
You want me to get the GoFundMe started?
Absolutely. Guns N' Roses North America 20. I didn't know they were touring, man. The Pretenders. Not bad. What are tickets? How much are tickets? $1,000 each? Let's see. That's another thing. It's ridiculous. Ticket prices. Seat map. Let's see what's available. Well, hell. Ooh.
30 seconds.
Custom Growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste what Dr. Hops is brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. It is June 13th. Thank you for being along. Man, had plenty to get to today. Lots. And the Andy Moore Honda hotline staying hot for certain. You guys tearing it up on the recruiting. Mostly over Flory Badunga. Some over Joey Hart. You've seen some that would like to see him in an IU uniform and some that would not. Nothing to do with him. It's just the logistics, I'll call it, of roster management. That's the best way I can call it, the logistics of roster management. Because he is would be a four-year guy. That's a hell of a commitment for Indiana when they know that they need the best players that they can absolutely have. And it's tough because earlier when I was talking about Nikola Jokic, the Joker, who was passed over by many, and now you look at him and everybody would love to have him. Could that happen to Joey Hart? Yeah. Man, a year from now or 2 years from now, he could be leading the country in three-point shooting, and everybody's saying, damn, I wish I'd have took a shot on him. Who knows? It'll be interesting to see how that one it winds up. Hope it works out best for him no matter what. I wonder what's going to happen with that final spot for the Hoosiers, because like I said, time sooner rather than later on that. As Chronic mentioned continuity. Heath pointing out, Rick Pitino, 12 new faces since Pitino took over. He is the Deion Sanders of college basketball. But Pitino knows what it takes to win. And he knows what it takes to get to the NBA as well. And he's still energetic. I mean, he's as energetic now as he was 40 years ago on the sidelines. And those players see that, man. They know that, hey, he can get me in there. So there's no surprise. He's going to be a force in the Big East. That's going to be fun. Yeah, Russell mentioning earlier, talking about Thomas Bryant and Tom Crean. That does remind me of, as a matter of fact, I took that picture. The one that Trace Jackson Davis reposted. That was actually my photo that I took in the locker room after the loss to Miami this year up in Albany. Russell asking if Chronic Hoosier is Brian Evans. Good question. And Chronic would be flattered by that. Brian would probably be flattered by that. But they are not the same person. I love the anonymity. It's kind of cool. I think, and I'm the one that, no, yeah. I started to say, did I use that picture first? But yeah, I think it's cool. I agree, Fred. A live broadcast from Wrigley Field on a concert day sounds unbelievable. Because as Chronic mentioned a minute ago, he just saw the Dead Company there. So I said, hey, you know, do they ever do others? They have an entire summer concert series at if you live up near Chicago, you're very, very lucky for this reason alone. This summer at Wrigley Field. See, what did we already miss? Oh, that was the first one, though. So Chase Rice, whoever that is, I don't even know who that is. Then Dead and Company. Fall Out Boy, June 21st. Morgan Wallen, I know he's big and girls love him. How about Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band? Dang it. I'm not kidding. I almost got to see U2 in was it Soldier Field, maybe. Pink. They have Pink. Then Guns N' Roses. The Jonas Brothers. There's a couple in there I wouldn't mind seeing, man. Guns N' Roses at Wrigley Field. Yeah, all day long. Please. That would be cool. Doing the show from there would be awesome. How surprised am I? Was surprised that it is everybody, but then not surprised because of how unfortunate this business is, and how sometimes they make bad mistakes. And I think that they misjudge readers' love of certain writers' work, certain readers' respect for certain writers' work. Bob is one of those, and it will cost them my subscription. I subscribed to The Athletic because of Bob. It was a great publication, but I'll get the rest of my information elsewhere. It's just you know what? Bob wouldn't want us on here talking about all that crap. He'll be fine. He is a man in demand. People see this. I mean, they know that people are like, oh, whoa. He will not be. I will guarantee you, he'll be on the sidelines as long as he wants to be. How about that? I mean, this is a guy who's written for Sports Illustrated, who's covered every major sporting event there is, who just so eloquently wrote about the Indianapolis 500 a couple of weeks ago. Not going to be a free agent long. People are not dumb. Russell thinks Chicago is the best of the Midwest. And we appreciate everybody listening up in the Chicago area or the region on 12:30 a.m. and 104.7 FM. But it's time. That would be cool to do a show from Chicago on concert day. Interview with there you go, Russell. An interview with Axl Rose. Yeah, I don't know if we could swing that. That would be pretty cool. That won't be happening. We're not that big. That would be awesome. But make sure you keep up with everything that's going on in the recruiting side. Go to thehoosier.com with Boogie Flan's visit starting tonight. He just finished up with Jaden Mustaf's visit. And Indiana still looking to fill that final roster spot that we talked about. Looking forward to the College World Series starting on Friday, but that leaves us a big old gap in the middle of the week. The NBA Finals are over. Man, it's going to be a little boring for the next few days. And before I forget, because everyone decided to take vacation at the same time, we will be off the air. Well, not off the air, but we'll have new shows the next 3 days on radio, but not on YouTube. So apologies for that. But I will be putting up new content along the way. So to keep you guys, to tie you over. Rick Bozich, we'll get that. Yeah, I wouldn't want to live in Chicago, but there's a whole bunch of reasons. First of all, it's just too damn cold, period. It's too far north. Fred says he's happy to see Thomas Bryant get his NBA championship ring. He enjoyed the show. We appreciate you, Fred. Thank you very much. Yeah, congratulations to TB. I didn't see. I figured Indiana was on top of that because that's another thing. That's marketing, man. That's marketing. You know, we're talking about Jalen Jafino a lot and Trace Jackson Davis, but not only did Indiana have a guy that just won a ring, they had 3 with a shot at it. They had 3 guys with a shot at an NBA championship ring. Once Trace Jackson Davis and Jalen Jafino are in the NBA, if the current numbers stay the same, that would give Indiana 8 former players in the league, most in the Big Ten. Just for those of you keeping score at home. Second would be Ohio State. So how about that? Looking forward to, let's see, it's tomorrow. Yeah, should be talking to Rick Bozich tomorrow. And as always, that is a engaging and educating conversation. Kent Beckman, we appreciate you greatly, as he suggests those of you that catch the show on YouTube to please hit the subscribe and notifications toggle, and most importantly, the like button. It really helps the show get the show out to others. So we greatly appreciate it if you could please hit the like button, as well as give me a follow on Twitter at Jim Coyle ISB. I hope the rest of your week is great as well. What do you do when, like right now, sports is at a crawl? I mean, it just happened yesterday, a mini crawl because the NBA Finals, boom, they're over. If that goes to a 7-game series, well, that would have stretched us out. Got us into the College World Series starting Friday. Boy, that would have really got us through. But the College World Series will be a blast once it gets going. That makes recruiting the sport of the day, which it has been, as everyone likes to stay on top of that with good reason. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com and keep up with what happens with Boogie Flan's visit, as he is in Bloomington. Getting to meet, and the fortunate thing about these visits, they're getting to meet the entire new team, minus potentially one. These guys are all in there working together already. So we'll see how beneficial that is. Man, I cannot thank Mike DeCourcy enough, as always, from the Sporting News and the Big Ten Network. He makes the day. Chronic brings the down home common sense. Appreciate him as well. Chronic Hoosier, that is. Most importantly, and Joe, the producer, for filling in for John, the producer. And then most importantly, you guys. Without you, of course, we have no reason to be here. And cannot tell you how much we appreciate you. New content tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.